I love the conversation overall. Last thoughts, guys.
Yeah, again, I think that if you can use that opportunity, if somebody like Anna can go in, or if Bernie Sanders did it or something like that, even people I don't necessarily always agree with, like occasionally like a Pete Buttigieg will go on Fox News or whatever and use the opportunity for what it's worth or whatever. I think that's great. I still think that Tucker Carlson is a horrible person. I think that he made himself what he wanted to be over the course of his career, chasing an audience. He told them what he thought they wanted to hear. I think that he also he didn't tell them stuff that he knew to be true, that he knew they wouldn't want to hear, like about Donald Trump. He kept his true feelings about Donald Trump secret for years and then came out and supported the guy right before the election. And so I worry, like, again, use him for whatever you can, but he's a guy that has said what he needs to generate an audience for years. I don't know any reason to believe that he stopped doing that when he left Fox News. And I think he has been, as Waz pointed out, I mean, he's viciously racist. I think he's fairly anti-democratic. I think he's totally fine with a much more explicitly Christian form of government. And so all of that remains incredibly problematic and needs to be fought. I think that he's potentially a very dangerous person. Like, for instance, if he decided to run for office, I think he's somebody that needs to be taken very seriously for those reasons. But that said, he is influential. He does have a big audience. And I think that Anna, I think the way she presented the argument was very well calibrated to get through to the people who would listen to him.
Yeah, so I'm gonna say one.
Oof. So he was spitting pretty hard for a second there. He was coming in hot as fuck, and he said a lot of things that were really important and that this audience needs to hear. I wish he would have signed it off by saying, I wish Anna would have leaned into that a little more, which is clearly what he believes, but he could tell that he was about to, really ruffle Cenk's feathers, and I think he wanted to tie a nicer bow on it and be like, but Anna did great. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. Also, I'm not sure if John has actually seen, or at the time that this was recorded, I'm not sure if he'd actually seen the entirety of the interview. He might have just seen the 2 or 3 clips that Cenk selectively played on air that did make Anna look based. So it's possible that John, isn't aware of the really embarrassing moments. He might not have been watching the Vanguard mere hours before this live stream.
That's actually a great point. And really fair to point out, he might have no idea how she conducted herself, but he probably has an instinct. He probably has an inclination, an inkling that it wasn't, all lock and horns the whole time. But other than that, I thought that was a great analysis by John Iadarola, and he continues to be probably the sharpest voice left at TYT.
Yep, 100%. And again, pay attention to the way Cenk responds to that, rant, monologue, whatever you want to call it, answer. Pay attention to how he responds, and then pay attention to John's face throughout the rest of the segment, because Cenk doesn't exactly throw the baton back to him. Again, take a look.
And believe that he stopped doing that when he left Fox News. And I think he has been, as Waz pointed out, I mean, he's viciously racist. I think he's fairly anti-democratic. I think he's totally fine with a much more explicitly Christian form of government. And so all of that remains incredibly problematic and needs to be fought. I think that he's potentially a very dangerous person. Like, for instance, if he decided to run for office, I think he's somebody that needs to be taken very seriously for those reasons. But that said, he is influential. He does have a big audience. And I think that Anna, I think the way she presented the argument was very well calibrated to get through to the people who would listen to him.
Yeah, so I'm gonna say one thing that I don't know if people will find it controversial. I don't care about the arc of his career. I care if he still has opinions that are problematic and that I'm gonna fight against, right? That I care a lot about. But if, he got to here in a weird way or in a disingenuous way or in a wrong way, well, if he got to the point where he's saying, let's stop the genocide and let's release the Epstein files and the American people are getting screwed and we should relieve credit card debt, I don't really care how he got there. I care that that's what he's telling his audience. I care that we agree on that. And I care, and I would love to get those things done. Whether any of us on the right or left is gonna get it done, it's a different matter. Waz, last word.
Yeah, I mean, it's so much.
And that's kind of a weird, like, in a sense, I get what Cenk is saying, but it's also like, who else would you hold to that weird standard, right? Like, who else would you be like, I don't really care what they're saying as long as I agree with it. Who cares if they're lying to me? Who cares if they're manipulating me? Who cares if they're completely changing their tune after being a total fucking hypocrite and profiting off of saying the exact opposite of that not that long ago? Like, I actually do kind of care. I do sort of think it's relevant to investigate the motives behind these commentators. And if someone has spent their entire career lying to me, then yeah, I'm going to take that into consideration when the broken clock happens to be right the one time a day, right? I'm going to be like, okay, so, I agree with that. I'm glad you're saying that, but there's some caveats that need to be addressed here, which is that you're not to be fucking trusted. We can't place our trust in you as a society because who knows what you're going to do with that trust. You're probably going to abuse it. You're probably going to use that trust to lead the public down a very dark road in the same way that Donald Trump did, in the same way that most politicians do, right? And you wouldn't hold a politician to that standard. You wouldn't say, oh, I don't care how they arrived here. I don't care if they're lying to me or if they're telling the truth. All I care is that they're telling me what I want to hear. Well, that's how we get in ourselves in these situations over and over again as the fucking people, right? By trusting con men and charlatans and snake oil salesmen and Pied Pipers that lead us off the fucking cliff by telling us what we want to hear. Like, yeah, I actually do think it's a good idea, especially going forward, that we like hold these people to some sort of fucking standard.
But that flies in the face of Cenk Uygur's business model, Gavin. He can't have that. He can't have that. What is he going to do? Inspire his audience to go look for people's receipts? Oh, he wants them going back 18 months ago and reading what he was saying? Absolutely not, bro. Right after the election, he had that video with trigonometry come out where he was like debating whether or not Trump was a Nazi. And then a day later, he's like, I never called Trump a Nazi. I hate when the left calls Donald Trump Hitler. Like, please accept me right-wing money. He wants proximity to power. That's what Cenk cares about. That's what Tucker cares about. They're cut from the same cloth in that regard. And what Cenk wants desperately is a little piece of that pie that Tucker's got going on the internet. He's like, come on, please. You want to get your news from that guy? Fine. But just come over here for a little bit of my news, bro. Let me get a little bit of that. It's like a dude that's, that the song about the dude with no self-esteem. Like he keeps hitting that girl, even though she's fucking with a bunch of other dudes. That's what Cenk's happy to be that guy. He's happy to be a booty call. He's happy to be the one that when your entire roster is booked up, you'll be like, all right, come on over, Cenk. I don't have anything better to do, and it's Saturday night. Cenk will come running with a smile on his face, man. He's like, yes, please, finally. Somebody wants me, and he's that way to every single audience member. But because of that, he cannot have a standard.
Guys, check out Damage Report every day, live at 1 o'clock Eastern on YouTube and everywhere else. Check out Waz on the Ringer, and Anna's going to be back on Monday. We'll probably talk about this again on Monday, and of course, the show is live 6 to 8 p.m. every day, Monday through Friday. So
yeah, he looks like he hates his life every time he has to listen to Cenk Uygur talk.
Yeah, look at him. That's straight up. He did not move his face. He was like a statue for the rest of this fucking thing. Because Cenk never threw back the baton to him. He let him make that little fiery speech. And then Cenk was like, yeah, I don't actually think that matters at all. I don't give a shit at all about anything that you just said. And then never gave the fucking bone back to him as far as the conversation went. He's just like, that's your final word. And I just destroyed your fucking stupid thoughts on the matter.
Yeah, I know John is caught between a rock and a hard place, like health insurance, like whatever the hell that's keeping him at the Young Turks. Like that has to be making the guy miserable. It has to be making the guy miserable to stay there. So I do feel for him in that sense. I think he would be liberated as fuck if he left. I think he would take a ginormous audience with him. I think people would actually follow him to get real progressive analysis like they do every single day on the Damage Report when he goes live. But
I mean, a decent amount of audience, but I don't think he would be going live for like 5,000 people like he does when he's on the main show, TYT. You know what I'm saying?
Not overnight, no, but I think he could definitely build a large and sustainable audience for himself. I think that he probably has the best chance out of anybody left at TYT to go out on his own and really make a name like as an independent broadcaster.
Yeah. Let's hope he at some point, makes that decision because I agree. He definitely has a lot of talent. And I feel like he has more potential than is currently being seen because he doesn't really seem that happy right now. He doesn't really seem like he fits in this environment anymore. It doesn't really seem like it's much of a TYT family these days, or something that would really be all that like fun to be a part of. I imagine back in like 2016, it was a fucking blast working at TYT, unless you were someone like our friend Hank, who, obviously dealt with the union busting, but at that level, being a John Iadarola or a fucking, Anna Kasparian, I bet it was a blast back then.
Oh, 100%. And I feel like that has to be one of the things that keeps people going so long. Like, I mean, you think about a guy like J.R. Jackson, who's been there for 15 years, maybe even longer than that. The thought of leaving an organization where you have that amount of clout, where you know the operation so well, where you're so comfortable, where you put in so much blood, sweat, tears, elbow grease. It makes it a lot harder to be like, fuck this, I'll burn it to the ground, because then you're like, what am I going to do? Go back to being, at the, the bottom of the ladder and have to climb my way back up. Like, I already spent 15 years climbing my way up here. Like, that's very daunting. And so it does suck. And it's a bummer that Cenk and Anna have decided to conduct themselves this way and run the business this way. And
specifically when John's used to like recording from his Damage Report studio and having producers, editors, like if he started from scratch, he'd be in his fucking like bedroom or living room, editing his own clips. Like that would be tough to readjust to after like a decade or more of being used to it in that professional setting.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's hard. I mean, we're used to it. Like I can say anything. I'll be like, get another job and just do this for free while you work with your homie for years and years and years to get it off the ground. Like, that's what we did. So it's not like we're saying anything that we didn't also personally live, but we're also younger guys. We don't have family obligations. We haven't tasted the success, the level of what John Iadarola has. So it's easier for us to come out here and say that. Although I believe in the guy, I think he could be making good content, and I think it debases him to continue to be associated with the Young Turks.
I do too. I mean, he seems, like he's not very happy. But either way, I thought that was interesting. Apparently Anna will be back on Monday, so maybe we'll get another round of good, juicy gossip to bring your guys' way. Maybe she'll fire back at our coverage. Who knows? But yeah. You said you wanted to react to someone else?
Yeah, I've got one more. Cenk Uygur posting his own L's. And I want to say the Vanguard deserves a little bit of a pat on the back. All the other Max leftists deserve a pat on the back. And you know what? I was going pretty hard in the paint against Jordan Ewell when he was just running abject cover for AOC the other day. But he came correct on this issue too. We documented it on our show. But Cenk finally coming around and admitting defeat, admitting he was wrong. And I just want to point out to everybody that every single time Cenk runs to the right, he has to come back to his audience and say, I was wrong, or never talk about the issue again.
Yep.
So here's a video that he posted
or gaslight you into thinking that he was right.
Yeah, lying to your face. Yeah, 100%. 3 hours ago, I hadn't seen this until right before we were about to go live, but I thought it was interesting. Cenk published a clip where he says, Cenk goes off on Josh Shapiro. Josh Shapiro claims Mamdani failed to condemn anti-Semitism. So we can play the first portion of this clip really quick.
And by the way, if anyone's not if they don't remember, we were, going hard at Cenk at the time. I think we even had Emma Vigeland on the show and she responded to it live when Cenk pinned a ridiculous op-ed saying that Josh Shapiro was the most progressive option for Kamala to choose as her running mate. Which we're like, what the fuck are you talking about, bro? Tim Walz is right there. It was like right as Walz was surging, had a lot of momentum. And Cenk's out here saying that Josh Shapiro was somehow more progressive than Tim Walz, and that because Josh Shapiro was a Zionist, he would somehow have more credibility to dismantle Zionism. It was the most idiotic fucking analysis I've ever heard.
Yeah, I have all the receipts pulled so we can get into all of them. But I did just want to start by playing this ridiculous quote from Cenk.
F you, Josh Shapiro. Okay, are you offended by that? Good. I'm glad you're offended.
Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro has been the latest establishment Democrat to criticize Zoran Mamdani for refusing to condemn the phrase globalize the Intifada.
Still, in this day of our Lord, July 27th, 2025. So I do have to give Jordan Ewell some credit, right? If you guys remember, they used the same picture in this debate that they had. It looks like it's the same video. This is from 11 months ago, actually. They just happen to have the same like
stock photo.
Yeah, stock photo of Josh Shapiro up here. But anyway, Cenk and Jordan kind of go to blows.
I remember that. Yeah, Jordan was like, what the fuck are you talking about, bro?
Yeah, absolutely. And he got in the tank with the same guy as we did. He was a Walz warrior. He was like, there's only one clear pick for Kamala Harris to make if she wants to make a splash and motivate people. Now you can nitpick, hindsight's 2020, all that jazz. But Jordan, Gavin, myself, we were all out here being like, you have to go with Tim Walz. And here is the insane op-ed that Gavin was mentioning. Don't fall for the misinformation campaign. Josh Shapiro is the progressive choice for vice president. Opinion by Cenk Uygur. And if you guys look here, we covered it at the time. Did Cenk even write the Josh Shapiro piece he published in Newsweek? Because he didn't have any of his arguments handy in that square off with Jordan Ewell. And Gavin, you're correct. We also had Emma Vigeland of the Majority Report on to dogpile him. because it was such an obvious dog shit decision. But yeah, Vice President and Democratic presidential nominee Kamala Harris is reportedly in the final stages of picking a running mate. Unfortunately, the best pick, and by which I mean the most progressive pick, is being denounced by progressives in the most self-defeating way. Josh Shapiro, the wildly popular governor of swing state Pennsylvania, is one of the front runners, and yet progressives have started a campaign against him over his position on Israel. My fellow progressives, it's got to stop. Josh Shapiro is the progressive pick. That's an insane thing to say if you're going to then have to turn around less than a year later and be like, oh yeah, actually, this guy supported a genocide. This guy supported starving 2 million people. This guy made all kinds of baseless accusations.
He was doing all those things while Cenk wrote this op-ed.
Yep, it's just crazy. It's just absolutely fucking nuts. So it just... to come out here.
It was one of the craziest things that Cenk ever said. That's why I think in that video we were like, did he even write this op-ed? I was speculating that maybe like he'd been paid by Josh Shapiro's people to write it or get that out there. Cause I was like, what the fuck? Like, how do you even believe this shit? This makes no fucking sense.
Yeah, this was the beginning of the end for Cenk Uygur, like the true beginning of the end. Like we'd made fun of the guy for a long time. We talked about how he was unserious in his run for president, how he wasn't even really that serious in his run for Congress, how he'd union busted. We documented how he'd taken the Katzenberg money, right? And we didn't like the Polymarket Studio money. But he hadn't gone like full on, I'm just going to cater to the right wing constantly. This was the first sign that Cenk had absolutely no morals. And so anyway, he had to put out this video admitting that he was completely wrong, that I figured we could play like a minute or two.
At least he admitted he was wrong.
Yeah.
We'll tell you what Shapiro said in a moment. But Cenk, I don't know if your temper has settled down a little bit. What are your initial reactions to some of Shapiro's comments?
My initial reaction is you were right, Jordan. Jordan and I had a debate. I backed Josh Shapiro for VP before Kamala Harris made her selection. Jordan backed Tim Walz. And look, as I told Jordan at the time, I didn't think there was any chance she was going to pick Tim Walz, but she did, and I gave her credit for that. But I shouldn't have backed Josh Shapiro. So Josh Shapiro turns out is Israel first. So Mamdani never said globalized intifada. Now he's telling people they shouldn't say globalized intifada.
I wonder what else that progressives were right about and that your ass was fucking wrong about, even though everyone was holding your hand like a fucking child explaining it to you, bro. Yeah, I wonder what other myriad of examples we could point to where that's the case.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy. He like, this is humiliating for him, and he comes out and he does say like, oh, you were right, Jordan, but I don't think he grapples with like how big of an L this is for him. It's like how humiliating it is. And nobody ever brings up that Ellen Greenberg case. But if you guys are curious about Josh Shapiro, look up Ellen Greenberg murder cover up and then search Josh Shapiro's name. You're welcome. You're about to go down a crazy rabbit hole, but the true crime girlie's already sorted it out for you.
Yeah, 100%. And it's honestly a thank fucking God that Kamala didn't pick Josh Shapiro, because you thought it was bad hearing about how Tim Walz flew to China and slept in a different bed than his wife. That was the scam. Remember the big scam, and the fact that he like didn't deploy to fucking Iraq or Afghanistan.
A bad football coach,
right? And he wasn't actually a football coach. You thought that was bad fucking drama? Oh my God! As soon as Josh Shapiro is on a major fucking political ticket on the Democratic Party, all you're going to hear about is Ellen Greenberg. She's going to become more famous than Jesus Christ. Like the Republican Oppo research department will go into fucking overdrive. They'll be on crack cocaine, accurately, telling people about the role that Josh Shapiro played in that heinous cover up. Do not let Josh Shapiro ever be the VP or the top of a ticket. It will be fucking a nightmare.
And I just want everybody to know that the Vanguard covered that shit way back in the day, okay? When she was considering Josh Shapiro, we were not sleeping. It was actually Circle Jerk America on the Vanguard channel. Harris VP frontrunner covered up a murder. Okay, we went in, did it deep. You guys can still get it. 90 minutes of good content there. But just pretty crazy stuff.
Yep.
But it's never enough. It's never enough because it's not about that. Josh Shapiro doesn't care about that. He doesn't care about Jewish Americans. He cares about protecting Israel. So let's listen to what the liar Josh Shapiro has to say about Mamdani.
In an interview with Jewish Insider, Shapiro stated the following: Mamdani seemed to run a campaign that excited New Yorkers. It's true. Then he goes on. He also seemed to run a campaign where he left open far too much space for extremists to either use his words or for him to not condemn the words of extremists that said some blatantly anti-Semitic things. You have to speak and act with moral clarity, and when supporters of yours say things that are blatantly anti-Semitic, you can't leave room for that to just sit there. You've got to condemn that. Here are the other...
Has Josh Shapiro condemned the insane Islamophobia that's been directed against Zoran Mamdani?
Fuck no.
establishment Democrats who have criticized Mamdani's comments? Take a look.
What is this? What the hell is this? And they say, okay, intifada could mean two different things. I don't use that word because it can be misinterpreted. But does it also mean an uprising that is political? Yes, it does also mean that. No, that one doesn't count. Well, why doesn't it count? No, because I want to call you an anti-Semite. But why do you want to call me an anti-Semite? Because you're criticizing Israel.
And he's right about that. About it, it just means like an uprising. Like you could also use like the same way the word revolution. You know, oh, when Bernie said he was going to start a political revolution, was he talking about cutting people's heads off? Was he advocating for violence, bro? Was this a call for violence, bro? Let's look at some previous examples of revolutions. Look what happened to all the slave owners in Haiti or whatever when they had a revolution against them. Is that what Bernie Sanders calling for? Like, you know, obviously you could say that with a lot of things.
Oh, 100%. And again, it's like, dude, what in the hell did you expect was going to happen if he was the vice president, bro? He would be doing this on steroids. He would be the guy that they sent out to justify every single fucking atrocity Israel does. Every time Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, Summer Lee, Al Green would come out and take a vote, take a firm position like they did, they would have Josh Shapiro come out and condemn the anti-Semitism in American Congress. I shit you not. He would have done that. That would have been his whole fucking job, Jay.
Apparently it already is his job.
Exactly. And he's not even a fucking vice president. He's just a governor of a fucking state nobody cares about. Yeah, I said it, Pennsylvania. Fuck you and John Fetterman. All right? Fuck you and fuck the Liberty Bell.
That's why.
Anyway, we can keep playing this if you want to, but that was the main meat and potatoes I wanted to get to.
No, I mean, again, credit to Cenk for admitting that he was wrong, for not just, reporting on the story, but actually saying like, yeah, I shouldn't have fucking backed Josh Shapiro. That was an L. Again, I don't really understand why he came to that conclusion in the first place. It still seems fucking maddening, specifically when Tim Walz was becoming a real possibility. Yes. Like he claims that, oh, there was no way Tim Walz was going to be the pick. Like Tim Walz was in the top 3 on the betting odds that same fucking weekend or that same week that Cenk released that. He was climbing, and Cenk was trying to like stop the momentum.
He didn't have his third eye open like the Vanguard, okay? Over here, the Oracle himself this dude was calling shots for a straight month. I don't know what was in his water, the reverse osmosis, but there was like a week straight where Gavin was like it was like getting hot at the blackjack table. You're like, whoa, am I watching Rain Man? Is he counting cards? What's this guy got going on? Like, who's in his ear? Am I about to get arrested by the fucking government because this guy's just an op? Like, how does he have the intel? But no, it all fell apart right before.
I was really just trying to manifest what I wanted to happen, which was Tim Walz getting picked.
Unfortunately, but that was right after the Joe Biden dropout.
Oh, true. Yeah.
You were on fire for a little bit.
I got that right too. I was like, yeah, there's no way Joe Biden's gonna fucking be the nominee. But either way, that was a fun time period for us personally. That's when our podcast started to finally get some serious attention. Obviously, political podcasts always thrive during election season, so it wasn't exclusive to us. But it felt like the first election that we really got to cut our teeth covering and making those predictions. Some of which came true, others did not.
Well, it was funny. Gavin was the prediction man, and I was just like, I have to think of something to do. So I was like, let me do performance art, and then it'll be hysterical when I troll all of you. And my commitment to the bit shocked many. They were like, wow, you tweeted about this an awful lot. You were very aggressive at everyone who disagreed with you. And I was like, I'm a man that stays in character. What can I say?
Yup. Oh God. Either way, pretty funny stuff. And it makes me excited for 2028, assuming that we still live in a fucking democracy or whatever. It's gonna be crazy watching all these idiots come out of the woodwork. Josh Shapiro. Because he's definitely going to run if there's a primary. Which,
there should be a Dem primary. It's a matter of if they suspend elections after Donald Trump doesn't like his chances against their nominee. or maybe the cheeseburger from heaven hopefully arrives before then, and then it's JD Vance that they have to deal with in the fucking.
My worst fucking nightmare, the worst possibility in my mind right now is that it's like JD Vance, or not JD Vance, but Josh Shapiro versus like Tucker Carlson.
Yeah, or Tucker wins.
Yeah, dude, because fucking Josh Shapiro is like a Zionist, and then it'll give the lane to like some asshole like Tucker to be like, and I'm anti-war.
And also the true crime shit, dude.
And the true crime shit. But I mean, Phil, it doesn't have to be Josh Shapiro.
Candace Owens would become the new Joe Rogan.
I mean, she already is. She's becoming the female Joe Rogan. But either way, you know what I'm saying? If the Democrats nominate a Zionist and the Republicans nominate some like faux populist piece of shit like Tucker, it's just going to be a fucking nightmare.
Oh yeah, the best case scenario the Democrats have is if they go with somebody like an AOC, and the person on the other side of the ticket is a JD Vance.
Yes, 100%. I hope that JD Vance is the Republican.
It's going to be hard
nominee.
for him to get through the primary. I read that Edinger Mentum article where he talked about how this dude is really not good at winning elections. Like he's really unlikable no matter who you stack him up against. And in an open primary, he's like historically underperformed. Like Donald Trump has over JD Vance's head that he is the reason he was able to win that initial Senate race. Like, it wasn't the book
Peter
sales.
Thiel.
Yeah, and Peter Thiel. Oh yeah, the fuckloads of money that they spent to buy the race didn't hurt, but.
Remember Blake Masters? He was the other Peter Thiel creation.
Yeah, Blake Masters was truly fucking unhinged. That's a name I don't think about often. But anybody that's like shooting a bunch of shit in their political ad typically does carve out a little space in here. He's like with Eric Greitens in my book of like Republican crazies. Like, do you remember when Eric Greitens put out that ad and it was like, I'm going rhino hunting, and it was like him like invading a house or some crazy
kicking down the door. And
yeah.
Look out the door if you hear an ambulance. The Vanguard will be there, sir. The Vanguard will be there, sir.